When fear met humor, the Krillian war fleet emerged from quantum space like a swarm of metal locusts. 300 warships materialized in formation around Earth's moon, each vessel bristling with weapons that could crack continents. Their arrival was calculated, precise, and terrifying. Admiral Zexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Decimator's Pride, and watched Earth rotate peacefully below. His 6 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. This would be his easiest conquest yet. The humans were a young species barely 200 years into space travel. They had no empire, no massive fleet, and no allies among the established galactic powers. Intelligence reports indicated they possessed conventional fusion weapons and basic kinetic barriers. Nothing that could stand against Krillian plasma artillery and graviton crushers. The invasion would be over in hours, the subjugation complete within days. Zexthor activated the Universal Translator and prepared his ultimatum. Every human communication device on the planet would receive his message simultaneously. Television screens, computer monitors, and personal communicators all flickered to life with his image. The Admiral's chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the bridge lights. His mandibles clicked in what his species considered an intimidating gesture. "Primitive humans," he began, his voice amplified across an entire world. "I am Admiral Zexthor of the Krillian Dominion, commander of the 3rd Subjugation Fleet. Your planet has been selected for incorporation into our empire. You will surrender all military assets immediately. Your governments will dissolve. Your people will serve as laborers in our expansion colonies. Resistance is futile. We have conquered 400 species across 2,000 worlds. You have one of your hours to comply." The transmission ended. Zexthor settled back in his command throne, confident in the panic he had just unleashed. Every species reacted the same way. First came denial, then desperate military mobilization, then futile attempts at negotiation, and finally broken acceptance. The cycle never varied, except this time something unexpected happened. The response came in 30 minutes, not an hour. A transmission originated from a facility in Geneva that called itself the United Earth Government. The face that appeared on Zexthor's view screen was not what he expected. Instead of a terrified leader or desperate military commander, he saw a middle-aged woman with graying hair tied in a casual bun. She wore simple clothing and sat in what appeared to be an ordinary office. Most strange of all, she was smiling. "Hello there," the woman said cheerfully. "I'm Ambassador Sarah Voss, head of Earth's First Contact Division. We received your message and, well, we have some thoughts about it." Zexthor leaned forward, confused by her tone. Where was the fear? Where was the pleading? Sarah continued, her smile widening. "First, I want to say thank you for the introduction. It's always nice to know who's trying to invade you. 300 ships is quite impressive. Must have taken a lot of planning. But here's the thing, Admiral. We're going to have to decline your kind offer of enslavement. Nothing personal, you understand. It's just not really our style." The Krillian Admiral felt his mandibles twitch in irritation. "Human, you do not comprehend your situation. My fleet has enough firepower to sterilize your planet's surface 10 times over. Your resistance is meaningless." "Oh, we comprehend just fine," Sarah replied, still smiling. "We're actually quite good at math. 300 ships, lots of big guns, very scary. Got it. But you see, Admiral, you've made the same mistake that literally everyone makes when they first meet humans." "And what mistake is that?" Zexthor demanded. "You thought showing up with a big fleet would scare us." Sarah paused for effect. "Admiral, humanity has been terrified for our entire existence. We evolved on a death world where everything from the bacteria to the weather was actively trying to kill us. We've survived ice ages, supervolcano eruptions, asteroid impacts, and ourselves. Do you know what humans do when we're scared?" Zexthor said nothing, his tactical mind racing to understand this bizarre exchange. "We laugh," Sarah said simply. "We make jokes. We create comedy in the face of terror because that's how we process fear. And right now, Admiral, you've given us a lot of material to work with." On Zexthor's tactical display, alerts began flashing. Human communication networks were exploding with activity, but not in panic. His intelligence officers intercepted millions of messages, and they all confused him. Humans were posting images, making jokes, and creating something they called memes about the invasion. One popular image showed his ultimatum with text added, "New phone, who dis?" Another showed a human weapon called a shoe with text reading, "Earth secret weapon, the Chancellor preparing for deployment." What is this nonsense? Zexthor snarled. That's humanity processing fear through humor, Sarah explained patiently. It's how we cope. It's how we've always coped. Did you research us at all, Admiral? Did you look at our history? Before Zexthor could respond, Sarah continued. Let me give you some context. During our Second World War, humans fought a devastating conflict that killed 60 million people. And you know what they did? They painted cartoon characters on their planes. They created comedy shows to boost morale. They made jokes in the trenches while artillery shells exploded overhead. When your species faces extinction, Admiral, what do? The question hung in the air. Zexthor had no answer. The Krillian response to existential threat was rigid military discipline and absolute obedience to hierarchy. The concept of humor in warfare was alien to him. I'll tell you what we do, Sarah said, her smile never fading. We smile, we laugh, and then we fight like cornered animals who have absolutely nothing left to lose. Because here's what you don't understand about humans, Admiral. When we're genuinely terrified, when we're facing something that could end us, we don't freeze up. We get creative. We get unpredictable. We become the most dangerous version of ourselves. Zexthor activated his tactical display, showing Sarah the overwhelming force arrayed around her planet. Your words change nothing, human. My fleet remains. Your destruction is inevitable. Is it, though? Sarah asked, tilting her head. Tell me something, Admiral. Your intelligence about Earth, how old is it? The question seemed irrelevant, but Zexthor answered anyway. Our scouts surveyed this system 15 of your years ago. We have been observing since then. 15 years, Sarah repeated, nodding. So your data is a bit outdated then? See, humans have this really annoying habit of rapid technological advancement, especially when we know someone's planning to invade us. You've been watching us for 15 years, Admiral. We've been preparing for you for 15 years. Did you think we wouldn't notice your scout ships? Did you think we wouldn't prepare? For the first time, Zexthor felt a tremor of uncertainty. His tactical officer approached the command throne, speaking in rapid Krillian. Admiral, our scans of Earth's defensive satellites are showing anomalies. The readings don't match our intelligence reports. They appear to have been upgraded significantly. Sarah's smile turned into a full grin. Starting to figure it out, are you? Let me explain something about human nature, Admiral. We are pattern recognition machines. We study our enemies. We learn their tactics. We adapt. And we do it faster than any species you've ever encountered because we've had to. Evolution on Earth didn't reward the strongest or the biggest. It rewarded the smartest and the most adaptable. She stood up from her desk and walked to a window that showed the Earth's blue surface. Do you know why humans really smile when we're scared, Admiral? It's not just about humor. It's a signal to everyone around us. When a human smiles in the face of danger, it tells their tribe, I've got this. Don't panic. I have a plan. And we always have a plan. Zexthor's communication systems came alive with requests from his ship commanders. The humans were doing something strange. Military bases around the planet were playing music over open broadcasts. Specifically, they were playing what human culture classified as pump-up songs and battle hymns. But mixed in were comedy clips, jokes, and what appeared to be motivational speeches that somehow incorporated humor. This is psychological warfare, one of his officers reported. But I don't understand the strategy. They're making themselves seem less threatening. No, Zexthor said slowly, beginning to understand. They're making us uncertain. They're behaving in a way that defies our tactical predictions. They're disrupting our psychological advantage. Sarah turned back to the screen. You wanted to scare us into submission, Admiral. But humans don't submit when we're scared. We prepare, we adapt, we innovate, and most importantly, we unite. Every nation on this planet, every culture, every person who was arguing about politics or religion or sports teams yesterday, they're all on the same side now. You've given us a common enemy. You've made us focus. You've made us dangerous. She leaned closer to the camera. So here's what's going to happen, Admiral. You're going to take your fleet and leave, not because we're asking nicely, but because the alternative is going to be very, very costly for you. We're not bluffing. We're not desperate. We're ready, and we're still smiling. Zexthor's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation among his kind. You cannot possibly have weapons capable of threatening this fleet. This is your final warning, he declared, trying to regain control of the situation. Power down your defensive systems and prepare for landing parties, or we will open fire. Sarah's expression didn't change. Admiral, before you do something you'll regret, I need to show you one more thing. Can I share my screen? Without waiting for permission, she transmitted a file to his flagship. It was a document marked Project Resolve, Extreme Contingency Response. The first page showed a date from 14 years ago, right after the Krillian scouts had first been detected near human space. The document outlined a plan that made Zexthor's blood run cold. The humans had spent 14 years preparing not to defend against invasion, but to ensure that any species that attacked Earth would regret it so thoroughly that no one would ever try again. The plan didn't focus on winning a military engagement. It focused on making the cost of victory so catastrophic that even success would feel like defeat. "We call it the laughter protocol," Sarah explained, "because even if you destroy us, Admiral, we're going to make sure the entire galaxy knows that you attacked a species that was smiling at you until the very end, and they're going to wonder what you were so afraid of that you had to destroy a planet full of people who were making jokes. Your reputation will never recover. Every species in the galaxy will see you as the empire that was so terrified of human laughter that you committed genocide." She paused, letting that sink in. "But it doesn't have to go that way. You could leave. Right now, tell your superiors that Earth was too well defended, that the cost was too high, that the intelligence was wrong. Whatever you want, we won't pursue you. We won't attack your territory. We'll just remember that the Krillian Dominion was smart enough to recognize a bad situation and walk away." For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Zexthor felt genuine uncertainty about an invasion. His tactical advantages were clear. His fleet was overwhelming. But something about this situation felt wrong in ways he couldn't articulate. The humans weren't behaving according to any predictive model he understood, and they were still smiling. The smile that shook the stars. The silence on the bridge of Decimator's Pride stretched for 10 full seconds. Admiral Zexthor's tactical officers waited for orders, while their commander processed information that challenged everything he knew about warfare and conquest. The humans were still smiling at him through the viewscreen, and somehow that smile had become the most unnerving weapon he'd ever faced. "Admiral," his second-in-command spoke carefully in their native language, "the fleet awaits your command. Shall we proceed with the assault?" Before Zexthor could respond, something impossible happened. The space around Earth's moon began to shimmer with the distinctive signature of quantum drives activating. Not from his fleet, but from sources that hadn't been there moments before. His sensor officer's voice cracked with panic as he reported the contacts. "Multiple vessel signatures emerging. Configuration unknown. They're appearing all around our formation." The tactical display lit up with red warning indicators. 20 massive ships materialized from what appeared to be stealth fields so sophisticated that Krillian sensors had detected nothing until they chose to reveal themselves. These weren't the sleek, efficient designs of modern starships. They were brutal, angular things that looked more like flying fortresses than vessels meant for exploration. Sarah's smile widened. "Allow me to introduce Earth's actual defense fleet, Admiral. We call them the Resolve-class battle carriers. Each one is equipped with technology we reverse-engineered from 14 different species crashed probes over the last century, then improved upon. Because here's another thing about humans you should know. We're really good at taking other people's technology and making it better." Dr. Park appeared on the split screen again, his enthusiasm almost academic. "Fascinating biology fact, Admiral. Did you know that Krillian exoskeletons are particularly vulnerable to resonance frequencies between 47 and 53 kilohertz? Your ships have the same structural vulnerability. We discovered this completely by accident while analyzing the data from your scout ships. Well, not completely by accident. We were specifically looking for weaknesses. But it felt accidental at the time." Zexthor's confidence was evaporating like morning dew in summer sun. "This is a bluff. Those ships cannot possibly match the firepower of my fleet." "You're right," Colonel Santos interjected, her tone professional but carrying an undercurrent of something dangerous. "Ship to ship you have numerical superiority. Your weapons are powerful. Your crews are well-trained. In a straight fight you'd probably win, probably. But Admiral, when have humans ever fought fair?" Tommy Chen laughed from his section of the screen.
"Oh man, you should see your firewall right now."
"It's having a really bad day. See, while we've been talking, I've been inside your network. Not doing anything malicious? Just leaving little notes for your IT department. Want to hear my favorite? The humans were here. Your password is still password 123. We're very disappointed in you." The young human's casual admission of penetrating military-grade Krillian cybersecurity made several of Zexthor's officers exchange alarmed glances. If a human child could breach their systems this easily, what could their actual cyber warfare specialists do? Sarah stood up and walked around her desk, the camera following her movement. Here's the thing about humanity that you really need to understand, Admiral. We're not a warrior species. We don't conquer for glory or honor. We don't even particularly like fighting. What we are fundamentally is a species of problem solvers who refuse to accept that any problem is truly unsolvable. You showed up here thinking you were a problem we needed to submit to. What you actually did was give us a really interesting puzzle to solve. She gestured to someone off camera, and the screen changed to show a conference room filled with humans of various ages, ethnicities, and professions. This is the First Contact Response Team. We've been meeting weekly for 14 years. There's Maria, who runs a restaurant in Mumbai. David, who teaches high school physics in Ohio. Yuki, who's a professional gamer in Tokyo. Chang, who builds housing for homeless people in San Francisco. These aren't soldiers, Admiral. They're just regular humans who decided that when aliens showed up wanting to enslave us, they'd figure out how to stop them. The camera panned across faces that ranged from teenagers to elderly individuals, each of them smiling with the same unsettling confidence that Sarah displayed. They waved at the camera. Some held up signs with messages like, "Hello, Admiral," and "Thanks for the motivation." One elderly woman blew a kiss. Every major city on Earth has a team like this, Sarah continued. Millions of humans spent their spare time over the last 14 years thinking about this exact scenario. They studied your species. They analyzed your tactics. They shared ideas on public forums. And they did it all voluntarily, in their free time between their jobs and families and hobbies, because that's what humans do when we're scared. We prepare, we plan. We turn our fear into action. Zexthor felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of military service. Genuine doubt about his mission's success. Even with your preparations, you cannot hope to withstand a prolonged assault. Your resources are limited to one planet. The Krillian Dominion spans 300 systems. True, Sarah agreed. In a war of attrition, we'd lose eventually. But Admiral, you're thinking about this wrong. We're not trying to beat your entire empire. We're just trying to make conquering Earth so expensive, so difficult, and so embarrassing that you decide it's not worth the effort. And I think we're succeeding, because you're still here talking to us instead of shooting. She sat back down, her expression becoming more serious but no less confident. Let me tell you a story about human history, Admiral. During our Second World War, there was a battle called Stalingrad. The German army, which had conquered most of Europe, sent their forces to take one Russian city. The Russians refused to surrender. They fought for every street, every building, every room. The battle lasted 5 months. The Germans had superior technology, better training, and numerical advantage. They still lost. Do you know why? Zexthor remained silent, but his tactical mind was already understanding the lesson. Because the Russians made victory cost more than it was worth, Sarah explained. Every meter of ground cost lives, resources, and time. Eventually, the Germans realized that taking Stalingrad would break their army even if they won. That's human warfare, Admiral. We don't just fight to win. We fight to make you regret fighting us in the first place. On Zexthor's tactical display, alerts began appearing from multiple ships in his fleet. His communications officer reported with visible distress, "Admiral, we're receiving messages from the Confederation of Aligned Worlds, the Merchant Guild, and the Galactic Observation Council. They're all demanding we stand down immediately. They're threatening sanctions against the Dominion if we attack Earth." Sarah's smile returned. "Oh, did I forget to mention? While you were traveling here, we've been making friends. Turns out lots of species in the galaxy don't actually like the Krillian Dominion's expansion policies. They just never had a good reason to oppose you directly. But when they heard you were planning to subjugate a young species that was willing to fight back, well, they got interested. Very interested." Dr. Park appeared excited again. "It's fascinating from a xenosociology perspective. We offered to share some of our technological innovations with other species in exchange for political support. Not weapons, obviously, but medical technologies, agricultural improvements, and communication systems. Humans are really good at making friends when we're not busy fighting each other. It's actually one of our best survival traits." Zexthor felt the situation spiraling beyond his control. This wasn't an invasion anymore. It was a disaster. The humans had somehow turned a simple subjugation mission into a complex political situation that could damage the Dominion's standing with multiple galactic powers, and they'd done it while smiling. This was supposed to be simple, he said, more to himself than to the humans. Nothing involving humans is ever simple, Sarah replied gently. That's kind of our whole thing. We complicate situations. We introduce variables you didn't expect. We refuse to follow the script. And we do it all while making jokes because, honestly, if we don't laugh, we'd probably just cry, and crying doesn't solve problems. Colonel Santos leaned forward. I want to be very clear about something, Admiral. We don't want to fight you. War is terrible. People die, resources are destroyed, and everyone loses something precious. But if you force this, if you make us fight, we will. And we won't stop until either we're gone or you wish you'd never heard of Earth. That's not a threat. It's just human nature. We're really, really bad at giving up, Tommy Chen added cheerfully. Plus, I've been uploading all your tactical data to public human networks. By now, millions of people are analyzing your fleet formations, looking for weaknesses. There's probably some kid in a basement somewhere who's figured out 12 different ways to disable your flagship, using nothing but creative programming and spite. That's the thing about humans, Admiral. We crowdsource our warfare. Everyone gets to contribute ideas. It's very democratic. The weight of the situation pressed down on Admiral Zexthor like a physical force. He'd come here expecting a quick victory, and instead found a species that had turned preparation into an art form, that had weaponized humor and smile, and that had somehow made him doubt the righteousness of his empire's entire expansion policy. What happens now? He asked finally. Sarah stood up again, and this time her smile was genuinely warm rather than strategically deployed. Now you make a choice, Admiral. You can attack and maybe you'll win, but it'll cost you everything you've spent your career building. Your reputation, your fleet's integrity, your political standing, and possibly your life, because I guarantee humans will be writing songs about whoever takes you down. Or, and hear me out on this, you turn your ships around and go home. She walked closer to the camera. Here's what I'm offering. You leave, we stay. We don't pursue. We don't attack Krillian territory. We don't even tell the galaxy that you backed down. In fact, we'll help you save face. You can report that Earth was too well defended, that the intelligence was outdated, that the potential cost outweighed the strategic value, whatever you need to say. And in exchange, humanity and the Krillian Dominion establish formal diplomatic relations. We talk instead of fight. We trade instead of conquer. We find mutual benefit instead of mutual destruction. She paused, letting the offer sink in. Because here's the secret about humans that nobody tells you until it's too late. We're not actually that scary when we're your friends. We're creative, enthusiastic, and surprisingly good at cooperation once you get past our tendency to be stubborn and weird. We've got art, music, food, and ideas that could benefit your empire far more than enslaving our population ever would. We're better as partners than as enemies. Admiral Zexthor looked at his tactical display, at his assembled fleet, at the choices before him. His mandate was clear: conquer or destroy. But his experience was telling him something his orders hadn't accounted for. Sometimes the bravest military decision wasn't to fight. Sometimes it was to recognize when the cost of victory exceeded its value. He thought about the humans still smiling at him from the view screen, about their 14 years of preparation, about their capacity for turning fear into action, about their unsettling combination of humor and deadly seriousness, about the fact that they'd made friends while his empire had made only subjects and enemies. If I agree to your terms, he said slowly, what guarantee do I have that humans won't become a future threat to the Dominion? Sarah's expression became thoughtful. Honestly, Admiral, none. We might become a threat. We might become allies. We might stay exactly as we are now. A young species trying to figure out our place in the galaxy. The future isn't written. But I can tell you this, humans have long memories. We remember who showed us respect and who tried to enslave us. We remember who gave us a chance and who forced us to fight. Make the right choice today, and maybe in 50 years humanity will be the Dominion's strongest advocate in galactic politics. Make the wrong choice, and we'll be the story other species tell about why you should never underestimate someone just because they smile at you. The bridge of Decimator's pride fell silent, except for the ambient hum of systems. Every officer watched their admiral, waiting for the decision that would define their futures. Zexthor's mandibles moved in the Krillian equivalent of deep thought. He had conquered hundreds of worlds, commanded thousands of battles, but never had he faced an enemy quite like this. They weren't stronger than him. They weren't more technologically advanced. They weren't even particularly organized by galactic standards. What they were fundamentally was unpredictable, and in warfare, unpredictability was the most dangerous weapon of all. Ambassador Voss, he said finally, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of military tradition being set aside. You present compelling arguments. Perhaps the Dominion has been too focused on expansion and not enough on cooperation. I will withdraw my fleet and report that Earth is unsuitable for subjugation due to unforeseen defensive capabilities and political complications. Sarah's smile transformed into something genuine and warm. That's a wise decision, Admiral. For what it's worth, I think you might have just prevented a war that would have cost both our peoples more than either of us can imagine. Thank you for listening. Zexthor gave the Krillian gesture of respectful acknowledgement. I have one question before we depart. This laughter protocol you mentioned, was it real, or was it a psychological tactic? Sarah's eyes sparkled with mischief. Admiral, that's the beautiful thing about humans. You'll never really know. Maybe it was completely real. Maybe it was an elaborate bluff. Maybe it was somewhere in between. The uncertainty is the point. But I will tell you this. Every word I said about human nature was absolutely true. We do prepare. We do adapt. We do smile in the face of fear. And we absolutely refuse to give up even when giving up would be the rational choice. Dr. Park waved from his screen. It's been lovely meeting you, Admiral. If you're ever interested in a cultural exchange program, we'd love to host some Krillian scientists. We've got this thing called coffee that I think your species would find fascinating. It's like liquid motivation. Tommy Chen held up his tablet. Oh, and Admiral, I'm closing all those back doors I left in your systems. Consider it a goodwill gesture. But maybe update your security protocols when you get home. I left a detailed report for your IT department. They're going to be very embarrassed. Colonel Santos nodded respectfully. Fair winds, Admiral. Perhaps we'll meet again under better circumstances. As the Krillian fleet began its withdrawal, executing a perfectly coordinated retreat that preserved their dignity, if not their original mission, something unexpected occurred. Every ship in Earth's defense fleet powered down their weapons simultaneously. It was a gesture of trust, a signal that humanity meant what they said about wanting peace. Zexthor watched this happen on his tactical display and felt something shift in his understanding of galactic politics. The humans had won without firing a shot. They'd defeated a superior force through preparation, psychology, and sheer audacity. And then in victory, they'd offered friendship instead of pursuing advantage. Commander, he said to his second-in-command, make a note in my personal log. The humans are dangerous, but not in the way we expected. They're dangerous because they make you question your assumptions. They're dangerous because they refuse to be predictable. And they're most dangerous because they make you want to be better than you are. His second-in-command clicked his mandibles in confusion but made the notation, as the last Krillian vessel entered quantum space and vanished from Earth's orbit. Celebrations erupted across the human homeworld. People poured into streets not to celebrate a military victory, but to celebrate the fact that war had been avoided. The preparations they'd made over 14 years hadn't been tested in battle, but they'd worked perfectly as deterrents. In Geneva, Ambassador Sarah Voss sat down heavily in her chair, the adrenaline of the confrontation finally wearing off. Her hands were shaking slightly. Dr. Park, Colonel Santos, and Tommy Chen's images remained on her screens. Did we really just do that? Tommy asked, sounding slightly shocked at their own success. We did, Sarah confirmed, allowing herself a moment of genuine emotion. We convinced a hostile empire to walk away through nothing but preparation, confidence, and the willingness to smile while standing on the edge of destruction. Colonel Santos leaned back in her chair. The laughter protocol worked. Though I'll admit I had my doubts about whether psychological warfare could really replace conventional weapons. It didn't replace them, Sarah corrected gently. It supplemented them. We had real defenses. We had real allies. We had real technological advantages. But we also had the willingness to be unconventional, to do the unexpected, to make them doubt their assumptions. That combination is what saved us. Dr. Park nodded enthusiastically. This is going to make an incredible case study in xenopsychology, the way we exploited the Krillian tendency toward rigid hierarchical thinking, combined with their lack of experience with species that use humor as a coping mechanism. Brilliant. Tommy was already typing rapidly. I'm documenting everything. Future humans need to know that sometimes the best weapon is just being aggressively, confusingly, optimistically human. Also, I really did leave that security report for the Krillians. They genuinely need to update their systems. It was kind of embarrassing how easy it was to get in. Sarah smiled, a genuine expression of relief and pride. We did something important today, not just for Earth, but for every species in the galaxy that's ever been threatened by a larger power. We proved that strength isn't just about military might. It's about adaptability, creativity, and the refusal to accept that any situation is hopeless. Across Earth, the story of how humanity faced down an invasion fleet with smiles and preparation spread rapidly. It became instant legend, a defining moment in human history. The laughter protocol, whether it had been completely real or partially bluff, became a symbol of human resilience and ingenuity. In the years that followed, the Krillian Dominion and Earth established formal diplomatic relations. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges began. Admiral Zexthor, far from being punished for his withdrawal, was praised for his tactical wisdom in avoiding an unwinnable conflict. He became something unexpected, a friend to humanity. The first time he visited Earth in person, 5 years after the near invasion, he was greeted with all the ceremony appropriate to a distinguished guest. Sarah Voss met him at the spaceport and they shook hands in the human fashion. "Welcome to Earth, Admiral," she said warmly. "We're genuinely happy to have you here." Zexthor looked around at the planet he'd once planned to conquer, at the humans going about their daily lives, at the art and music and chaos that defined their civilization. "I have wondered many times what would have happened if I had given the order to attack." Sarah's expression became serious. "We would have fought. Many would have died on both sides. Maybe you would have won. Maybe we would have survived long enough to make it not worth continuing. But either way, both our peoples would have lost something precious. I'm glad we never had to find out." "As am I," Zexthor agreed. Then he noticed that Sarah was smiling again, that same unsettling smile from their first meeting. "You're doing it again." "Doing what?" "Smiling when discussing serious matters." Sarah laughed, a genuine sound of amusement. "Old habits, Admiral. We spent so long preparing to smile in the face of fear that now it's just how we process everything. But this time I'm smiling because I'm actually happy, not because I'm terrified and pretending otherwise." As they walked through the spaceport together, followed by security details from both species, Zexthor reflected on how much his understanding of the galaxy had changed. The Krillian Dominion was slowly shifting its policies, moving away from conquest and toward cooperation. Other species noticed this change and began their own diplomatic initiatives. The humans had done more than save themselves from invasion. They'd accidentally started a small revolution in galactic politics, simply by refusing to be intimidated and being willing to extend friendship to a former enemy. Years later, when young Krillians studied the incident in military academies, they were taught an important lesson. Sometimes the greatest victory is the battle you don't fight. And sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who makes you laugh while standing ready to fight. Earth's defense fleet remained, a quiet reminder that humanity's smiles were backed by real capability. But more importantly, humanity's willingness to cooperate, to share, and to build rather than destroy became their true legacy in the galaxy. The laughter protocol remained classified, its details known only to those who had participated in its creation. Historians debated whether it had been a real plan or an elaborate bluff. Sarah Voss, when asked, would only smile mysteriously and say, "Does it matter?" It worked. And in that smile, in that willingness to leave questions unanswered and maintain just enough uncertainty to make potential enemies think twice, lay the essence of what made humanity simultaneously frustrating and fascinating to every other species in the galaxy. They were the species that smiled at danger, the species that turned fear into preparation, the species that refused to accept that any problem was truly unsolvable, the species that made friends of enemies and found creative solutions where others saw only violence. Admiral Zexthor, in his later years, would tell young officers about his encounter with Earth. He would describe the Resolve-class battle carriers that appeared from stealth fields, the casual admission of penetrated security systems, the political alliances formed in secret, and most of all, the smile of Ambassador Sarah Voss as she offered friendship with one hand while holding weapons with the other. Never underestimate a species that smiles at you while standing on the edge of their own destruction, he would say, because that smile means they've already thought through every possible outcome and accepted whatever comes. And anyone that fearless is someone you want as an ally, not an enemy. The galaxy learned this lesson slowly, but thoroughly. Humanity's reputation spread, dangerous when threatened, generous when befriended, and always, always unpredictable. They were the species that raged against the dying of the light by lighting more lights of their own. They were the species that faced an overwhelming fleet and responded with laughter and preparation in equal measure. They were the species that proved strength isn't just about weapons and warriors. Sometimes strength is about refusing to let fear control you. Sometimes strength is about smiling in the darkness and meaning it. Sometimes strength is about being so thoroughly, confusingly, optimistically human that your enemies don't know what to do with you. And sometimes, strength is about giving your defeated enemies a path to become friends. Because humans understood something fundamental about the universe. Making friends is always harder than making enemies, but the results last longer and matter more. The laughter protocol remained humanity's reminder that when faced with overwhelming odds, the best response might just be to smile, prepare thoroughly, and remind everyone that humans don't give up. Ever. For any reason. Even when it would be reasonable to do so. Because that's just what humans do. They smile in the face of fear. They laugh at danger. They rage against impossible odds by refusing to accept that anything is truly impossible. And somehow, against all reasonable expectations, it works.